It literally happens every week. Somebody sends me a video where I've got to watch it over and over again while I scratch my head trying to figure out exactly how they did that. Welcome back, guys, to this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. Now, this one's not always the case. Most of the time, actually, when videos are sent to me, if you really examine the video, you can kind of determine what went wrong and what happened. Unfortunately, most of the time, it's lack of knowledge on the boater's part in the video. I mean, the US, here we are check captain world. If you've got a big enough checkbook, you can become a captain without taking any safety courses or anything, in most locations.
Oh, Broncos Guru, this one's got to go on Bonehead Boaters of the Week. You can see clearly to the left a yellow hazard marking buoy showing where the end of the line of the rocks is, but somebody decided to take a shortcut. That's going to hurt his stern drive. Ouch. Sorry for the wobbly video, sat in a dinghy while I'm doing this.
A lot of the incidents we see come from a lack of knowledge of the rules of the road, understanding no wake zones or channel markers or how to read them or look at them, causing a ton of incidents out on the water.
As you can see, well-marked channel. You know, people really need to learn channel markers. See this? This is Nanaimo, BC. There's a very well-marked channel for the rock that this tourist here is sitting on. Anyways, figured you might get a chuckle. They've even still got the radar running.
And one of the most important rules of the road that I think gets ignored far too often is if there's an impending accident, you need to get the heck out of the way. It doesn't matter who has the designated right-of-way. For example, a boat typically has the right-of-way over an airplane, but in this situation where the airplane's disabled, that's not the case. You need to move. And also, one of the other basic rules, which really isn't a rule of the road, but it's more of a general guideline in boating that everyone should follow. But for some reason, every single week, we get sent videos of the same thing, and that rule is simple. Never approach anything on the water any faster than you're willing to hit it. Now, every state may have some slight variations to the rules of the road based on the type of waterways and conditions people face in that local state, but most states offer the book for free. Typically, you can go to your local wildlife office and get the book of the rules of the road for your specific state and learn them fairly easily, and everybody should absolutely do that. Now, even once you've learned the rules of the road, that doesn't mean you're out there ready and capable to drive a vessel. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody has to start somewhere. Everybody has to learn, once you get involved in that boating lifestyle, how to operate your boat. But one of the key things I see people make a big mistake on a lot of times is putting themselves in situations they are not ready for. This is one of the big keys in boating, understanding your abilities and the abilities of your vessel. And the quicker you learn this out on the water, the more success you're going to have. Most people think driving a boat is very similar to driving a car, and they're just going to be able to get behind the wheel and steer this thing where they want it to go, and they quickly learn that is just not the case. In boating, you've got to deal with wind and currents, all things you really don't have to deal with directly in cars. I mean, a 5-mile-an-hour gust of wind is not going to move a parked car, as to where a vessel, it is absolutely going to move it. And you're also going to learn that vessels steer completely different than cars, and each vessel has its own different quirks in the way that it steers, as to where a car, you get behind the wheel and turn that wheel to the left, well, guess what? That car's going to the left. Some vessels, if you let off the throttle and you steer the wheel, you're going straight. And then, of course, there are some different parts on boats than cars, which can mystify people sometimes, and have you look at your significant other like, hey, did we forget this? Did we lose a screw somewhere? Only to realize later that even though it was something small, it was a very integral part of the vessel, which can hinder operation of the boat. And speaking of hindering operation of the boat, that's another difference between this and cars. If your car breaks down on the side of the road, life typically isn't too bad. It's just inconvenient, but typically the tow truck's coming to get you and everything's going to be fine. But that's not always the case out on the water, and you may find yourself in some peculiar positions having to do some very strange things to try and get the boat back to land. But that's all part of the quirks and the adventure that is boating. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit me up on Facebook or Instagram and let me know, and you might see your stories over here. Just like David Klein, Dr. Utsu, Gary Cowling, Joni44, KB Za, PJ Meyer, Seamus Wassam, Stephen Landry, and Zoberg did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here.